From 2010 to 2018, all defending FIFA World Cup champions have been eliminated in the group stage. In fact, if you only count European nations, the trend stretches back to 2002. This has become known as the Champions Curse, and 4 nations have so far fallen victim to it in this century: France, Italy, Spain, and Germany. It also notably happened to Brazil in 1966. Despite what the word curse entails, this probably isn't the result of black magic. However, there's certainly merit to the phenomenon, as it has happened so frequently throughout the most recent World Cups. For simplicity's sake, I'm just gonna refer to it as the Champions Curse, as that's how it's most commonly known. This video aims to answer the following questions surrounding the Champions Curse. What causes it? Excluding Brazil in 1966, why did it only begin in the 21st century? Why does it only affect European teams? Why didn't it affect Brazil in 2006? Will France fall victim to it this year? What causes it? The most obvious answer to the first question is that the players lack the motivation to win the World Cup again, if they've already done it. Overconfidence likely plays a role too. The belief that they're unbeatable due to being reigning world champions. This overconfidence can lead to vainglory, which in turn makes them underestimate their opponents and fail to win matches. It's worth noting that I think most of this is applicable on a subconscious level. Despite what I've just said though, in Germany's dressing room ahead of their match against South Korea in 2018, I'm sure the players felt as motivated, focused and professional as any others at the World Cup. However, the aforementioned factors still exist on a subconscious level, as I previously mentioned. I fully understand if you think this sounds fuzzy and vague, but I nonetheless think it's true. I also think the initial match in particular impacts how a team performs, as it can set the tone for the rest of the tournament. Brazil in 1966 is notably the only Champions Curse victim that won their opening match, whereas Italy drew theirs against Paraguay in 2010. However, despite not losing, dropping points in the first game can have similar psychological effects, though to a lesser extent than when losing. Nevertheless, every other Champions Curse casualty lost their opening match. In other words, if France drop points against Australia on the 22nd of November, their prospects are bleak. This might be stupidly obvious, but it's still worth noting. Another aspect is age, which I think plays somewhat of a role, but not as big as one might think. For example, the average age of France, Italy and Spain respectively when they fell victim to the curse was around 28 years, which is about a year to a year and a half above the average for World Cup teams, and 2 years when it comes to champions. However, Germany's average age at the 2018 World Cup was just 25.7, which proves that being young doesn't assure safety from the curse, even though it appears to improve the chances of a defending champion to succeed. In 2022, the average age of the French national team was 26.6. Excluding Brazil in 1966, why did it only begin in the 21st century? The most apparent reason for the Champions Curse starting in the 21st century is that the players have busier match schedules, which naturally makes them more tired. Then again, this is true for almost all professional footballers, so should it really make a difference? I think yes, since reigning world champions basically always have strong squads, meaning they had to play several Champions League or Europa League matches, while many of their other World Cup opponents mostly have players that just play in the domestic league and cup. Even the more average national teams with a few quality players that play for respectable clubs like, say, Sevilla, usually don't make it to the latter stages of the Champions League knockouts. And even if the average national teams have a couple of true world-class players that reach European finals, they usually don't make up a big enough portion of the national team to make the overall squad negatively affected by fatigue. Another contributing factor, and this is just me speculating, could be the rise of footballers as celebrities and brands as opposed to just players. If football isn't their full professional priority, and only 95%, it increases the risk of them failing. That said, I'm not trying to discredit modern day players. If you are a professional footballer, you have undoubtedly put a tremendous amount of work into it. But the room for error is absolutely microscopic at the pinnacle of the game that is the World Cup, so the most minimal of factors can make a big difference. Then again, I'm just speculating, this is not science. Why does it only affect European teams? Why didn't it affect Brazil in 2006? The simple reason that it generally affects European teams is that they have dominated the World Cup throughout the 21st century when it comes to winning titles, excluding Brazil's 2002 triumph. However, the elephant in the room here is Brazil in 2006. They're historically consistent, the only country to have participated in every single World Cup, and they've won the competition more than any other. Perhaps that plays a role. Similarly to Real Madrid in the Champions League, the World Cup exists in Brazil's DNA, so to speak, even though they haven't won it since 2002. I think that's a possible reason for Brazil's relative success in the 2006 World Cup, even though they suffered a disappointing quarter-final exit. However, beyond anything, the fact that Brazil weren't eliminated in the group stage of the 2006 World Cup indicates that the so-called champions curse isn't a law of nature, despite being a real phenomenon. Now to the most crucial question. Will the 2018 World Champions France be eliminated in the group stage this November? Les Bleus' poor form in the Nations League, where they only barely avoided relegation to League B, certainly doesn't help their case. However, you could make the argument that this has given them a crucial wake-up call, meaning it might decrease their risk of flopping at the World Cup. As previously mentioned, in 2022 the average age of the French national team was 26.6 years, which bodes well for Les Bleus, since Champions Curse victims tend to be a bit older. Still, it's worth noting Germany was younger in 2018, so it doesn't assure French success. Another aspect that will help France overcome the curse is that their group is a bit on the easy side, excluding Denmark. Australia appear to be a shadow of their former selves, while Tunisia are decent but not great. Comparably, France's 2002 group, Germany's 2018 group, and Spain's 2014 group were tougher. Then again, having a pretty easy group didn't stop Italy from finishing last in Group F in 2010. But to suggest that how competitive a group is doesn't affect a team's chances to do well in it is obviously a bit odd. Not to mention that 2022 France is undoubtedly stronger than 2010 Italy. So I think it's safe to say that France have better odds to reach the knockout stage of this World Cup than, say, Germany in 2018 or Spain in 2014. After considering all of these factors, my final verdict is that France won't be eliminated in the group stage of this World Cup, for the following primary reasons. The French squad is great and aged perfectly. France's struggles in the Nations League has given them a needed wake-up call, and France's group is relatively easy. However, I don't think they will win the group. Also, spoiler alert, I don't think France will successfully defend their title. But more on that when I release my finalized World Cup predictions. In the meantime, thanks for watching and stay tuned for future videos.